Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Zapped to the Past. My name is Adrian Mills and I am joined as ever by
Graham Ruddings.
This is a podcast all about the Commodore 64 and the games that were released for it. As you may well be aware, there were thousands of games released for the machine. So, to bring some order to this chaos, we are basing each episode on the games that were reviewed in a certain issue of the seminal Commodore 64 magazine, Zap 64. We are in no way affiliated with the magazine, but we are using it as a handy guide to select the games to look at in each episode. One last thing, pleased to know, is that there are a couple of swear words that do crop up every now and again. We're not the sweariest of podcasts, I have to say, but there is the odd little one that does slip through in the heat of the moment. It's nothing major, but if it is an issue, then obviously please be warned that the odd one will slip through. So in this episode, we are looking at the games released in issue 3 of Zap, which was the sunny month of July 1985. Graham, what exactly can we expect in this episode?
In this episode, we look at Defender Dropzone, where we wander around collecting stuff in a load of arcade adventures, not all of them good. Knockout and Circus Circus go head-to-head for which game is the crappiest, and AD gets outraged by an Amazon warrior.
So, with that out of the way, let's move in to our first game. Which is the cover game for this issue, which was Dropzone. Okay, and Dropzone. What do we say about Dropzone? It was a gold medal in this issue, one of two, in fact, a rare occurrence in the magazine. Dropzone is, well, it's Defender. Let's not beat around the bush. It's a version of Defender. What it is, though, is a brilliant version of Defender. This is, taking Defender and adding some bells and some whistles and some nicer visuals and everything that could be done to it, keeping the speed, keeping the responsiveness, and keeping everything that made Defender great, and somehow making this brilliant and run like a dream on the Commodore 64. Do you agree, Graham? I don't know. What do you think?
Yes, I agree. It's Defender with a spaceman, with no doubt. But it was fast. It's Defender, and I really like Defender. It's one of my favourite arcade games. Has been ever since one of the first games I ever played in the arcade. I think really properly. It is super repetitive, but it's Defender, so it's just maniac, crazy stuff going on. And you get that with with Dropzone. I think it really captures that really well. In fact, if anything, I would argue it's perhaps a little bit more playable than the arcade, because the arcade tended to have a little bit too much frantic stuff going on at once, and you could very quickly get overwhelmed. So yeah, I really liked it. I don't know that there's a lot to say about it, though. That's the problem with Defender. It's a very simple game in its makings.
Well, I think one of the things that Dropzone did, I mean, if we could talk about the cover, because this is the cover game, after last week's cover, the distressing Theatre Europe cover.
The gory masterpiece.
Absolutely, the rotting face of nuclear war.
It was gory.
This is a much more in line with what the first issue was. Sort of, it's trying to sort of bring Dropzone to a cover, and it's quite sci-fi. There's some spaceships and stuff and shooting. It's good, but it's nothing. I think after the previous issue, someone had had a word somewhere and gone, Oi, tone that down. No more rotting faces. And so this is much more in keeping with what probably a computer magazine cover would be like, I think, in probably 1985. So I think there's that. What I think this does do is it updates the controls of Defender. That's one of the biggest problems I ever had with Defender, is I never liked the controls. if I remember rightly, and it's been a while sort of thing, but you pressed the button to flip direction, didn't you, in Defender?
That's exactly
and
right.
I never liked that, because then you'd zoom across the other side of the screen, and I could never get on with it. It was always the thing of that game that always bugged the crap out of me. I don't know if you felt the same.
Yeah, I could completely agree. It's when I say that kind of frantic control, because you've got, I think in the original arcade you have a joystick, I think. But you've certainly got like a shoot button, and then you have a turn, essentially. So when you turn, it shoots across the screen, and it kind of almost put the brakes on, and but it is, if you've got busy stuff going on and your hand-eye coordination's that of mine, you're not heading into any great long scores, let me tell you, when it flies around like that.
Yeah, because I think you had a shoot. It was I think the stick only moved you up and down. So you had shoot, thrust, and flip, I suppose, was 3 buttons if I remember rightly. And flip you would stay where you were, but you would actually move across the screen, because then the screen would move with you. Yeah. This just gets away with that sort of thing by just keeping you pretty central.
Yeah.
In moving up and down and then moving this ground. And I think that adds a lot to it. It makes this game feel much more controllable. It's still bloody hard. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. Playing it. Did you get very far in your replay?
Well, yes and no, because it's one of those games you never really feel like you're getting anywhere. And by that, I mean, it's just kind of, you have to pick the people up, drop them in the little base. You do that, and once you've collected enough people, you move on to the next level where there's more enemies and more people to pick up, and it just does that forever. There's no change of variety. There's little neat touches in here, and it actually felt like a bit like a mishmash of Jetpack, which was that old Ultimate Spectrum game. So it had a sprite from Jetpack, but it had the kind of the gameplay and the sprites from Defender. And there's nice little touches. There's a nice little animation, some nice little animations on the Spaceman. He waves at you in the in-between bits and stuff like that. But it's one of those games. How far did I get? Well, it's more like how long did you last with this game? And I think that's, which is when you're playing an arcade, there's that desire that you want to pump another, bit more money in and play it. With this, because it doesn't have that, I don't know what its longevity would be. It's great to look at and to play, but I don't know. It's not a game you're going to go back to over and over again and just try and get, this time I'm going to get play for another 7 hours and get to level 750. It's, because it's just more of the same. At least as far as I'm aware, I've never made it past level 5, I don't think, ever, on any of the versions, so there might be some great thing at level 6 I've never seen.
Well, I think that does change it. I mean, level 4, you get the trailer level. It's called something called the trailer level, and everything's blue, and it's full of those. It's full of those, because this is the thing. What it did, it did, it didn't just replicate Defender. It did add some new elements. If you look at the review in Zapped, there's 9 enemies compared to the original 6.
Yeah.
And one of those is that really annoying, like wiggly worm type thing. Oh, God's sake. So for anyone that don't know, the point of the original Defender was that you were going across a landscape shooting aliens. You had little people lugging it across the bottom, and you had to protect them. And if they got picked up by landers, they would get turned into mutants, which would come homing in on you really fast. This changed it slightly in the fact that your little guys, they're not little guys, they're little blob, the little sort of orbs, which does beg the question sort of thing, because you're supposed to be picking up. I read the story, and you're supposed to be picking up men in these. They're supposed to be in those blue orbs that are rolling along the landscape, and you take them back to thing, which does beg the question: how big are you? Because you're massive.
Is what big spaceman, right?
I don't know. Is this some freak of nature, or is this some massive something, or is it a spacecraft you create? I mean, it's got it's like a dash of jetpack thrown in. Which I thought, from a visual standpoint, if we talk about the visuals, I think the visuals are great compared to what Defender had that just a basic line for the landscape. It's got really nice sort of bitmap landscape scrolling at the bottom, looks lovely sort of thing. All the everything moves so fast, it's so quick, and so smooth. And like when we've talked about in the last couple of episodes about games not feeling responsive or feeling sluggish or feeling this because. The 64 had a very, relatively slowish processor. This just does away with that. It's like, away with you. No, this is some kind of souped-up monstrosity. And Archie McLean, who made it, it was his first game released on the 64. He originally made it for the Atari, was it the Atari 800, 400? One of them two. The
I think
XL.
so.
And supposedly when he said, he's bringing it to the 64, people scoffed at him. They said, you'll never do it. And like about 5 months later, there it was.
Well, you see, there's the age-old adage, never challenge Archer McLean to do anything on a computer he's not familiar with, because he's just going to do it and do it really well. And that seems to be a theme with Archer McLean throughout his whole programming life. Yeah,
he does do several games down the line, which obviously we will probably all be looking at, because the guy was some kind of programming ingenue. He was incredible.
Yes, I agree.
He did a series of games across the 8-bit machines that like Dropzone, they stand up. They stand up today because they're just really, really well designed and programmed. Yeah. He was a very, very clever guy in that respect. It's and this feels really inspired by the arcade game. We know it's inspired by Defender, but the way it looks as well. That the really nice title screen, it's not got any music, not that I was aware of, not that I heard.
No,
it's,
but neither does the original Defender.
No, it doesn't. Orally, it's quite simple sort of thing, but it has what it needs. It has exactly what it needs. I like the title screen, the way that second drop zone drops out of it. Some nice touches, the high score table. I like getting a rank for how high you got. That's nice. I think, my high score was only 23,000. My Twitch gaming skills are well past me. But I was happy with what I got. I got to the 4th level, which was that trailer level, and then which is loads of those blue wiggly worms. And
yes.
It is. I think my notes are brilliant, fast, responsive. Just that's it. It's a great arcade. Not conversion, because it's not Defender. For obviously legal reasons. But it takes Defender and it makes it, updates it. Because the Defender was what? When was Defender? 1980, 81?
Yeah, 82? It's quite an early arcade game. Yeah, 1981, 70s, I think.
Late 70s?
1981, I think, around there.
So this is 4 years later, and looks it. I think it's a great game. I don't know. I think it's brilliant. I enjoyed going back to it, and one of those games where you're thinking, is it still going to be as good? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, I went to an arcade. We're going back some time now, and the original Defender was in there. And I played it then. I got the same feeling that you do when you play a game that there's nothing really to dislike about it at all. And so Dropzone is the same. You're right, it's not Defender. It is Defender in its sort of general idea, but there's nice little extra touches that make it a bit different. I think it's missing some of the sound power that the Williams arcade has, but then again, there's no Eugene Jarvis at this point on the C64. But at the same time, that he is a unique individual and brought a unique kind of sound power to the games that he was part of. And I think you would never have been able to replicate that, even with a SID chip at that time in that way, because arcades sound like they do with big speakers and amps and all the rest of the stuff they probably put in that. But other than that, you've got a very competent programmer doing a really elite job of a game that definitely deserved its gold medal as far as I was concerned. It was just great and playable and instantly, and compared to some of these other games that we've played for this particular issue of the podcast, it's shining light, so let me tell you.
Yeah, this starts on a very good high.
It's a high.
And it's a high, and I was very happy to go back to it and find it was still just as good. So yes. Dropzone, massively, excellent, good. Okay, so from Dropzone into our second game of the cast, we look at Roland's Ratrace. Graham, want to tell us about Roland's Ratrace?
Well, I'm going to start this off by just saying, and I suppose really, actually, before I even do that, let's start this off with, because people are going to wonder, some people may wonder, what on earth is Roland Rat? So let's just very quickly, the TLDR of Roland Rat is that at the time, GMTV, which was Good Morning Television, was desperate for viewers. They were desperate. They simply were losing ground on the breakfast shows. And they brought in I don't know if it's a puppet or a man dressed as a rat or both, but anyway, a character, a puppet-based version of character that I don't even know what he did on Good Morning Television, actually. I guess he presented it in some way. I'm not a big advocate or follower of what Roland Rat did. I just know that it expanded this from what was essentially a guy in a rat suit to a guy in a gerbil suit to them going on wild adventures, and hey presto, there's a video game made. So the story is, this is a TV personality of a type, right, turned into a game. The idea of the game is that you have to go through all the different sewers to collect all the various parts of, I think it's the recording or something. You have to collect. I can't remember what you have to collect now, but you have to collect all these parts so that you can get to the TV studios before the beginning of your show. And there's all these various different creatures and things in the sewers that are trying to prevent you do that. And that was the game. So it's wandering around the underground sewers of London trying to collect things in order to be able to do your GMTV show. So that's the premise. Weird. Beyond belief, I know. It's weird. But that said, so even if you had an affinity for Roland Rat, which I didn't, as much as this game is a bit... it's okay. It's not terrible because it's kind of okay. I never liked Roland Rat. The graphics are okay. It's kind of medium resi, reasonably colourful. There's lots of wandering around tunnels to collect things and to do stuff. So it's a big old tunnel-based maze, quite a jaunty soundtrack. It was fun-ish, but the screens kind of all look the same after a while. So you start to get... Because the logic of the going in and out of the tunnels and going left and right, you can very quickly lose which direction you went in from the tunnel in, and it just gets a bit much after a while. So I didn't feel like it had a lot of longevity with me, and I still to this day do not understand the humour of Roland Rat. So which means that any jokes that were in there are completely bypassed me because I was never part of the joke to begin with. So, I was never a rat fan, is what I believe they were called, rat fans. But what about you?
We were. A rat fan? I was indeed a Rat fan. Back in 1985, it was not GMT, it was TVAM.
Oh, so it was one of those things.
Yeah, it's the early one sort of thing. But yeah, TVAM were on the thing, and along came this fairy creature that saved them. And this is, I'm not going to say it's a great game, but yeah, I had a certain affinity for Roland Rat. I did enjoy the TV show with Kevin the Gerbil and Errol. I can't remember what Errol was. Errol the hamster. I think it was a hamster. Yeah. Probably. And it was a bizarre sort of weird kids TV program that was that was then transformed into some strangely dull sewer adventure, which was like kind of it is what it is. I think you've summed it up nicely. This sort of thing. You wander around some sewers. You actually collect. The whole point is that you've missed the taxi to get to the studio, and Errol and Errol and Kevin have been kidnapped. Something, and you've got to get them back by finding all the parts to a doorway, which will allow you to get them back. Now, there's some certain little bits of nice touches. The fact your energy goes down very slowly, and the reason it goes down slowly is because Roland is upset because Errol and Kevin have been kidnapped, which is a strange concept, but that's what it is. I think you're right. It is very, very easy to get turned around. There's 2 levels to the sewer. Did you get down to the bottom level?
I didn't make it that far, I have to say. I didn't. No,
you find a manhole cover and you go down a manhole, and there's a whole lower level, which is just as confusing. But what there is on the lower level is a subway train that goes across the bottom of the tracks. And one of the things, just to mention sort of thing, for some reason, this may have come from the show, I don't remember, Roland is armed with a glue gun.
Yeah, that's right. I wonder what he was firing. It is glue, isn't it?
It is glue, yeah. I mean, it could be mistaken for anything, really, but it is glue, and it does. And you are chased. Basically, the only enemies that chase you, sort of thing, are these day glow shoes that wander around the sewers for some strange reason. You can freeze them temporarily with the glue gun, but you need to pick up. It's got to get a finite amount of shots. You need to pick up more glue. But one thing you can do is you can fire the glue on the tracks, and it will stop the train, and you can then get on that train. And when you do get on that train, that's a great piece of music. It's so hidden, but it's actually the best piece of music in the whole game. Right. It's a really weird sort of thing, but it's this. And what that train does, it just goes through every screen, so you can just stay on it indefinitely, listening to this bit of music, which is great. Which is kind of what I did for about 10 minutes. I'm not sure if that's much of an indictment on the game. I don't know, but it is a really nice tune. And then you can get off. Don't get hit by the train though, sort of thing. You lose loads of energy and probably die. It's one of those games. It's made by Ocean, and it looks like an Ocean game. It's got those big black outlines around the sprites, which would play things like Daley Thompson and Rambo, and things like that. It just looks like one of their games. It sounds like one of their games. I'm pretty sure this is Galway.
It is Mountain Galway.
I thought so. Sort of thing. As soon as that opening crescendo came on for the title screen, you were like, oh, and then it drops into that tune. And that tune is one of the most earwormiest tunes he ever wrote. Because even before I played this, I hum that still to this day. And I don't ever listen to Roland Ratrace. It's a terrible tune, but god damn it, it's an earworm. It's not terrible. It's just a bit bland and a bit weird. And I think, I don't know. I think they had a concept that they shoved Roland Rat into.
Yes,
maybe.
I quite agree. Yeah, funny enough, funny you say that actually, because I felt that exactly that. This felt like it could have been any character in that. I mean, it looked kind of like a rat. I also felt so it could have been, it could have been any character in that game. It just happened to be they made it into a Roland Rat game. So I think you're right. I think they maybe had this someone had created this maybe a year before and gone, I've still got them levels I made with them sewers. That'd be handy to put a rat in.
Yeah.
But I also thought that I thought the sprites were just a bit small. Thought it would have just benefited from having a slightly bigger rat that maybe looked a bit more like Roland Rat as opposed to just kind of a mouse.
I think that was the thing. I mean, if you think about games like Daley Thompson and Rambo, their sprites are very similar. They're tiny sprites. They don't particularly go for big sprites in those games. And I think that's maybe just an Ocean style. There's probably other games as well that around this period from Ocean that probably look the same.
Yeah.
I just think it's just one of them things. It just smacks of Ocean software.
Yeah.
They did some great games. They did some
not
crap
so
games,
great.
but this is somewhere in the middle, and it's just it's a weird fit. But I think Sewers Rat.
Yeah.
I think someone said but it's actually a really fun thing that does loads of crazy adventures. No, Sewers Rat.
Well, it was also, and we'll come to some more of this kind of thing, I think. But for me, it was also particularly in this episode of the podcast, it was the beginning of the walk around finding stuff games. Because it was the first one of the walking around finding stuff games that I played in the list of games that we play for this. So it was the first one, and it sort of set. I was thinking, okay, this is all right. As a one-off, I don't mind these kind of games every now and again. As I discovered, there's more. There's more in them there hills.
There's always more of this. I mean, this is Dundarak.
Yes.
Not Dundarak. Sorry, Turn on Og.
Yes.
Dundarak was the sequel. There's Turn It Off. There's Everyone's a Wally.
Yes, there's just seemed to be a lot of them. But you know what? It was all right. It's an Ocean game, so it had a bit of a quality stamp on, and you kind of felt that. So it had good music, a good musician. It had good graphics, decent sort of opening screens and things like that. If you got the tape version, you're going to get that Ocean loader music and, it's some nice visuals and all of those sort of component parts of Ocean games, which kind of made it feel like you'd bought a bit more than just a game. So, but as for Roland Rat, well, no, I was never a Rat fan, but you were a Rat fan. I didn't know that about you. I don't know why that has never come up in many years I've known you. That you've never confessed to me that you were a Roland Rat fan.
Well, why would it? Anyway, I was 12 when he was around. So yeah, I think it was just a few of us. I used to do a mean Roland Rat impression, which I'm not going to do now. I used to. Rat pains.
So that's actually not bad.
Hey, rat pains.
That's pretty good. I'm no expert, but
yeah. I won't do the Welsh Gerbil sort of thing because it's just going to sound bad.
No.
But yes, it was a fun time, and I liked Roland Rat at the time, and I think that endeared me to the game to like it probably more than I did. And also as well, this is one of the few original games where I actually had the original of this. We bought it. Well,
as a Rat fan, you would.
Yeah, I would do. Yeah, absolutely. I was plaguing my brother for it. So there you go. So Roland Ratrace, it's okay. It's all right. It's. I think if the tune will drive you mad.
Yes.
There you go. Okay. However, yeah. So yeah, go play it. It's all right. Okay. Onwards and downwards. I hope you'll agree.
Decline.
This is this is such a fast slide down from the brilliant to the mediocre to the oh my crap. So the next game we're looking at is a title I'd never heard of this. This was all new to me. I would look forward to it because it got a tacky in the magazine. It is Cyphoid 9.
That's correct.
Cyphoid 9. So Okay, Cyphoid 9 is some. Do you remember the into the screen shooting level in Beachhead where the planes were coming at you and you had to raise your gun up and shoot them and knock them out, sort of thing? And that was a really nice, shooting World War II planes, and that was quite nice. It controlled well and everything like that. Now imagine that, but crap, and in a sci-fi setting, because that's Cyphoid 9. Now, the first thing that will hit you with this game, sort of thing, is the title screen. When that title screen came up, I was like, yeah, that's all right. That looks quite nice. There's some nice bitmap imagery. This is not too bad. There's some spaceships flying around. I was like, presentationally, this is okay. Then I started the game, and then it started scrolling.
And 10 minutes later.
And I used the term scrolling because it would the top bit of the screen would scroll, then the next 8 characters, then the next, and then the next, and the next. And it would take, for some reason, I don't know why, it didn't just start where it was going to start. If I released this game, if I made this game and I was like, right, so we're starting here, but I want you to start over there, so I'm going to scroll it across. And my scrolling routine was that bad, I'd kick that bit to the curb and just start you over there.
Yes.
Get into the action first and foremost, sort of thing. Because that scrolling sequence is just, that's my notes. It just says, oh no, that's scrolling. No. That's my notes. That shouldn't be.
Mine says that. Mine says, that's scrolling.
Yeah, that's that shouldn't be.
No, it should not be.
No. So this is, it's a single screen wave-based shooter. The visuals are not terrible. Some nice, nice chunky thing, but it's just dull as crap. It's you move a cursor around, you try and shoot. Every now and again, one of your bullets will hit a spacecraft to do some kind of strange explosion, and then a bigger craft will come on, which you try and destroy. If you destroy it, it scrolls again. The guy was obviously proud of his scrolling routine, so it scrolls back to where you started. No, fade to black, fade back up. Just don't do that scrolling. Yeah. So then you start shooting again. Exactly the same. And then if you don't manage to kill the big ship that comes up at the end, the Earth gets blown up in the distance. And that was it. And then I turned it off.
Yes, and I think you did the right thing. I was initially elevated with hope when I first saw the opening screen, albeit that it is basically, they just redrawn the mothership from Battlestar Galactica, the original series of Battlestar Galactica, because it's just that mothership. So, which looks kind of like sort of, I had to describe like 2 domes upside down on each other, a bit like a I can't remember. There's a little dessert that they look like, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So they basically ripped the graphics from Battlestar Galactica. Okay, fair play. That happens in these things. Then the scrolling began, and there was 2 things that happened at that exact moment for me. One was, I think I must have got a look of horror. Now, I've programmed that Commodore 64. It has a chip in it with settings specifically for scrolling. Smooth scrolling has an address on its graphic chip for that purpose. So why this chap didn't either utilize that or whatever, but I don't know. But anyway, so there was these kind of weird graphics at the bottom, kind of medium res moon graphics. So once that had finished scrolling for 10 minutes, the game began, and then it was just shooting indistinguishable blocks of things that were supposed to be spaceships. They look kind of like brown paper aeroplanes. So they were kind of floating about, and some of them really stupidly fast. So you just spent a lot of time trying to shoot that one at the end, a bit like a super fast Space Invader. And then, like you say, you got onto the next level, which was just shooting one of the motherships, which had somehow shrunk in size from its enormity to something that was about the same size as a Commodore 64 sprite, handily enough, one sprite big. And then, so once you blew that up, it was just more of the same, and then I switched it off because I couldn't bear to see that scrolling again. It held no interest for me. It's not like it even had a radar or anything useful on it, or it was just rubbish. And it actually, I thought the title sounded a bit like a hemorrhoid cream. So, who's gonna, I've got a right case of the Cyphoids. So I just thought it was
9 of them, in fact.
9 Cyphoids, too many for me.
It's like a doctor counting them. You got 1 Cyphoid, 2 Cyphoid, 3 Cyphoid. Oh, there's 9 up there.
Well, it's supposed to be perspective-based shooting, but it wasn't even that. because the spaceships never really got anywhere near you. They just kind of stayed about the same distance away. But their bullets didn't. Their bullets kind of zoomed towards you periodically. And for some reason, they had the letter A on some of them. I'm still not exactly sure why, but anyway. I didn't hang around too long to find out. I thought someone had taken all that time to redraw the mothership from Battlestar Galactica only to place it in a really rubbish game. And I imagine that's not a happy chap at the end of that process. So it was
Is it like two walnut whips?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. It's the best. I mean, you could Google Battlestar Galactica mothership and you're going to see exactly that, and then you'll know what I'm talking about, but it is one. No, and I think probably the little spaceships that came out of the Battlestar, came out of the mothership were probably meant to look a bit like enemy fighters, although they actually unintentionally look like the fighters of the actual Battlestar Galactica, so they look a bit more like those. So just somebody was very confused about the Battlestar Galactica references. And I was
I'm not going to knock it for nicking stuff. I mean, we've just praised a game that's essentially Defender.
Oh, it's not. It's not that it nicked it that bothered me. It was just use them well.
Yeah, it didn't use them well. It didn't use anything well. It's just a really boring, pointless thing. That sort of thing needs to be fast, responsive, snappy, quick moving.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, none of those words apply to this.
Not one of them. I'd have been
not a single
horrified if I'd have paid money for that and loaded it. Horrified. That'd have been going straight back, telling them it wouldn't load. That's where that would be going, straight back. It wouldn't load. I don't know why. Something wrong with it.
Yeah, it's a bad one. It deserved that tacky. We've looked at 3 games there, sort of thing. One is that all programmed around the same time on the same machine, and Cyphoid 9 is Typhoid Mary. Dreadful, awful game. So yeah, I think so far we're in cahoots with Zap.
Yes, actually, yes, we are. We're
in agreement.
Yes, we are.
So brilliant, mediocre, awful turd.
Yeah, tacky is right. In fact, I wouldn't even go as far as tacky. It was just awful.
Yeah, it's a bad game.
Yes.
Sorry if you made Daddy listen to this. You did a bad thing.
Yeah. Learn what the DO16 does. Learn it well. All right, just learn about all about that little address on that chip, please, on the Vic chip, please.
Oh, all right. So there we go. So there's our first 3 games. So we're going to take a break now, and we will be back in a brief moment after this interstitial blang with what was going on in the world in July 1985. Okay, and welcome back. So what we're doing now, yes, we're looking at some things that were going around in the world, going on in the world in July 1985. Actually, it's not the world, it's UK. We're UK-based, and this is for the UK. I keep saying the world, but it's the UK.
It's sort of, part of it stretches to the bit of the world.
Well, actually, yeah, some of it will, and some of it does, sort of thing. The first one I thought is, worthy of a mention was here in the UK, 13-year-old Ruth Lawrence achieved a first in mathematics at the University of Oxford, becoming the youngest British person ever to earn a first-class degree and the youngest known graduate at the university. 13.
Fuck my life.
Jesus, 13.
She got a degree at 13.
A first-class degree in mathematics at Oxford.
I wonder what she's doing now.
Don't know.
Probably TikToking. And earning money on OnlyFans.
TikToking wild math.
That's amazing. What an achievement, though. And that's also, that is to be 13 and to be able to even think at that and be able to process things at that level. I mean, my eldest is doing mathematics degree and mathematics and physics, and it's just an alien language what he's doing. I don't understand it at all, and never will.
No.
So to do that at 13 is just mad. I
remember someone showing me
13. When you were 13, what was the most complex mathematics or the complex thing you did? Was you?
Can I say that on air?
Well, I suspect he wasn't worrying about your exams from your first class honours degree.
No, I suppose the most complex thing I was doing at the age of 13 was trying to navigate the sewers in Roland Ratrace.
mapping as you went, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah. No. 13. What was that? What was I? Year. What is it now? Year 9, year 8, I guess.
Yeah.
It was third year for us. I was proud about playing football, playing on a Commodore 64.
Yeah.
Wondering where the Exploding Fist was going to come out.
Yeah,
probably it. 13, incredible. I thought it was worth a mention because, amazing.
Do you know? I think around that time I was painting Citadel miniatures, and those miniatures at that time, I think.
Which you have too many of them.
Yeah, I always did that. But goes without saying that you end up with nowadays. Of course, you'd need a direct line to the bank manager if you were going to try and live that life. But back then, you had little model shops that you could go and buy little miniatures from, and I think that was the mainstay of my life, was trying to figure out how I could get money for brushes and paint. I certainly wasn't sat there figuring out calculus.
No, their paint is now safe to actually drink because it's so watered down.
Yes, I believe they make thick. They make
That's
thin.
Not true. Don't drink the paint.
No, don't. I don't think it would harm you if you did drink it. It's water. But you know what? I know that they do make thick and thin paint now. Some genius at the manufacturer went, you know how we can make twice as much money? Sell 2 kinds of the same paint. Just give them quirky names, Tooth Blood Red and Fanghorn Green, and then make one thick and call it the undercoat, and make one loose or thin and call it the overcoat. I guess I'm not sure. I think they used to call them inks, and then they changed the name to stain. I don't know what they call them now, but I don't know. But I do know that they're about £3.50 a pot. So
yeah, no, it's too much. Let's move on.
Yes,
to the big event. This is the big event. Let's face it. That happened in July 1985. This could easily be sitting in the music section, but we're actually going to do it here in news because it was huge. This is the 13th of July, and the Live Aid pop concert went ahead in London and Philadelphia, raising over £50 million or $70 million if you are in the US for famine relief in Ethiopia. It was huge. It was
massive.
the kind of was it the start? I suppose not, because we had the crowd the other week. But this was on another level. This was incredibly, a day of, all the biggest acts from the music world at the time performing live on the same stage. It had never been heard of before. This kind of thing was just absolutely unprecedented, really, I think, on this scale.
Absolutely.
Phil Collins did his best to put a bigger hole in the ozone layer.
He did.
By playing at both concerts. So he started the day, I think, at London, playing the opening set, and then got on Concorde, whizzed across to America, and then played in Philadelphia as well.
He did.
Quite incredible. It was. Do you remember it? Do you remember much of it?
Yeah.
Or is it just one of those things that you kind of you've seen on telly, so you think you remember?
No, I remember it well. I remember the opening act was Status Quo, rocking all over the world. I remember because it was a massive event. It's not just in terms of its scale of what they were doing in the actual live concerts, and the fact that there was 2 massive arenas full of hundreds of thousands of people in over the world. But it was also the fact that they broadcast it across every nation. It was one of the first humongous multicasts across the entire earth. So that in itself was quite the event, and I think it was a bit underplayed at the start on British TV. It was obviously a big event, and of course it was the UK footage from the famous footage of the Ethiopian famine crisis that really kick-started Bob Geldof and started the whole movement with Band-Aid, and then later on Live Aid. So it all kind of stemmed from Britain, really, which is kind of incredible. But it was one of those things. It seemed to be on TV. It was on for hours. I think it was pretty much on all day and night, as I remember it. I don't think it was on for hours. I certainly remember certain
12,
bands.
I think, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember watching it. Or pretty much, we was kind of compulsive viewing to watch as much as you could of it. And I certainly remember seeing Queen on there, and watching them when they were on, and then that's not just one of those memories that you remember, because that's obviously this is some of the footage is just endlessly repeated. Queen is in particular quite famously that's where he came out with the big cloak and the crown and everything else, but there was also other stuff like Madonna was on there from the US, where she was singing things like Holiday and some of her early songs as well, and she got booed, and there was that famous bum note from Duran Duran when they sang, because he hit a real bum note at one point, and he and it's just loads of little things like that. It was a big live show. Bob Geldof getting progressively more aggressive and smashed as it went along. and getting really menacing with people to by the end of it, sort of shouting at people to donate. But all said and done, one guy had a vision, and he couldn't stand to see what was going on in one particular part of the world, and he forever changed the world. And I think the face of music, and certainly stadium music, forever. And I think, in all fairness, and the legacy of it still lives on to this day. Events of that kind still happen. I don't think you'd have your downloads and some of those festivals that now happen very regularly. I think they sort of owe a little bit to that Live Aid, that idea that this is something we can actually do on that scale. So I think the world owes Live Aid quite a lot. And it's odd, really, because some bands that were on there, I mean, they were massive in their own right. U2 were on there, for goodness sake. I mean, big bands that, you just... At that time, it's hard to imagine it now, to say to someone, because there isn't really anything like that, any bands. If all the artists in the world got together right now, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference half the time. The modern ones, so...
there'd been... I'm not saying it invented. We're not saying it invented like the festival sort of thing, because obviously Glastonbury, Woodstock, and all these things had happened, sort of thing. But I think they were and Reading. What you generally get with them is a few days. People go and camp and sit out. This was a huge stadium event, and music festivals. That I don't really remember them happening much. And they probably did. They probably, especially in America, there's probably a bit of a thing. But over here in the UK, that was just not a thing. And especially, backed by royalty, it was a very, very big deal.
Yeah, and live on TV.
And live all day on TV, sort of thing, and swearing and all kinds of stuff. It was impressive. It was just one of those sort of those things where you just felt part of the whole thing. Where you walked through round, if you were walking over, you could just hear it coming out of everyone's window.
Yes.
If you're out and about, and that was the thing. It was a huge communal event in the UK that was that is now just doesn't happen. Not very often, or not very much anyway, sort of thing. Not that we can go out much anyway at the moment anyway, but this was just on another level to anything that had really happened before. Live Aid raised loads of money, led to Band Aid, which was a great pop song. And not the cover.
No,
not the re-release cover.
Let's never speak of that. The
original.
That's something that can haunt your nightmares. That
the original Ace, the cover.
Less so.
Yeah,
it's safe to say.
Yeah. All right, so that's Live Aid. Yeah, really good. I was surprised at this next little bit. This is just a little nugget that I sort of found, and I thought I didn't realise this was so long ago. 24th of July, the country code top level domain .uk was registered.
I didn't know that.
So according to that bastion of knowledge, Wikipedia is. 35 years ago. I mean, I was like, wow, that's a long time. I was expecting this to be sometime in the 90s or something, not middle of the 80s.
I wouldn't even know that. I didn't know that domain names even existed. But I suppose domain registrations, they must have had the plan all along.
Yeah, it must have been something, but that's what I've got here, sort of thing. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know, but that's what I've read on Wikipedia. That when I was looking through the news, that 24th of July, the domain .uk was registered. It might not be exactly as we understand it now, but .co.uk, I suppose, was the thing.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it became a thing. It must have done. I mean, why would you question Wikipedia's authenticity anyway?
I never do. No, everything I know comes from Wikipedia. Yeah, absolutely. And finally, just to round out this section, another incredible achievement, because these are. There was a long-going battle in middle distance running. The exciting world of middle distance running in the UK was, you would not believe it. If you're not from here and you didn't live in the 80s, you would not believe the amount of airtime that was dedicated to three particular athletes competing against each other in middle distance running.
Absolutely.
And they were Sebastian Coe, Steve Ovett, and Steve Cram.
Yep.
And on July 25th, Steve Cram ran a world record mile in 3 minutes 32.32. So running a mile in less than 4 minutes, incredible. Running a mile in three and 3/4 minutes is a staggering achievement, sort of thing. But I wanted to mention this because it's the weird world of the 1980s where so much newspaper space, so much TV space was given over to this kind of competition between these three athletes. It was a strange thing. It was like, we've got nothing better to do, so we'll just, Steve Ovett is this southerner, Seb Coe is the northerner, and Steve Cram is the even northerner. because he was, I think, he was from Newcastle.
Northern.
I think was the double Northern, and it was like this kind of almost this class divide between them all. And there was like at the Olympics racing against each other, and people got very excited whenever they would face off against each other. It was a very strange thing, but essentially it was just like people running around a track for long periods of time in as fast as they can. And fair enough, I can't do it. I never could. So I'm not knocking the achievement, but it's just running.
Yeah. Well, we were a little bit of we were a country obsessed, weren't we, really? I mean, it wasn't, it's around this time, isn't it? Or somewhere in this part where Chariots of Fire was around.
1981, I think that was.
So we had a film, we weren't just pleased with our runners, we made films about old runners. And all about, and there's that great, famous Vangelis soundtrack, and for some reason it captures people, I think medium to long distance.
It's the Roger Bannister thing, isn't it? Because Roger Bannister was English first sub 4 minute mile run sort of thing. So we kind of, in the UK, we pride ourselves on these great achievements.
And do you know what? I mean, it's an amazing time, really. I mean, the current world record is 3 minutes 43:13. So as much as that's 3 seconds faster, which in running terms is a lot. 3 seconds in all that time is, it shows you what an achievement Steve Crams really was. I mean, a mile in under 4 minutes is great, but a mile in under 3 minutes and 45, it's just astonishing that somebody can run like that. It blows my mind, really, and I'm not able to run at that kind of speed in any way, shape, or form, and never will be. No. I'm built for comfort, not for speed. But,
I got a lot of comfort. I got a lot of comfort to give.
I've got way more than 3 minutes 43 to the comfort. Let me tell you. But that current world record, by the way, is Haikam El Giro or Garouge. I'm not sure how you say the surname, and I'm not going to say any more variants of it. But that's also the same person who's got the 1500 meter record as well at 3 minutes 26, which is actually I think faster than my time on the computer version. When I was waggling the joysticks, how did he do that?
Don't know. I just don't know.
Just incredible feats of athletic ability there. Can't not
we really, because we weren't great at, we had Alan Wells in the short sprint, but he wasn't great. But we had these three runners at middle distance, and they were world beaters. And we were obviously, because they were world beaters, that was it. The whole country was, middle distance running obsessed.
Yeah. Well, we're still a bit like it. We've got Mo Farah now.
So that's true, yeah.
Got Mo Farah. Sir Mo Farah. So there's the next generation. It's the middle distance runners, the next generation. That's got to be the lamest TV show ever devised.
His brother, by the way, cuts lawns. Flymo.
Sir Flymo.
Sir Flymo Farah. Does it in really tight trousers.
Yeah, mate. Good luck.
It don't get any better.
He's here all week. He won't go.
It's a shame.
It's a shame. He won't go. Someone call somebody.
And okay, so clever 13-year-olds, amazing pop concerts. .uk was registered before I knew it, and people are running very fast. There's your roundup of what was going on in the UK in July 1985. I hope it was worth it. Okay, and welcome back. Games. So we've done news. Let's do some more games. We've got 3 more games to look at in this section. And the first one we're going to look at was a Zap Sizzler. A bit of a classic, I think. Widely regarded as a precursor to a certain series of games these days. But I think this is pretty good. This is Kickstart. Graham, do you wanna tell me what you think about Kickstart?
Yes. So I think it's, again, oddly, there's a few of these, really, isn't there? It was based off a TV show, right?
It was, yes.
TV show was Kickstart,
Kickstart,
which was, and it's essentially a trials bike show where people who were good at trials biking, motorbikes, those kind of, do they call them trials bikes? I think that's what they're called.
Why this is...
Anyway, motocross type bikes, isn't it? But they ride those over hills and valleys and difficult obstacles, and a sort of assault course for motorbikes. TV show was that kind of thing. It's actually quite good. I used to always end up watching it because it had this really catchy music as well. Very famous, actually, the music. So it was a good TV show. Along comes the game, based upon the same thing, And there's some really nice little touches to this. So the idea of the game is you can choose multiple levels. You can play 4-player, I believe, but it's sort of 2-player on the screen at the same time, maximum, I think. And you are on a little motorbike. There are some obstacles on the obstacle course, and you have to then navigate them. You can speed up, you can jump at the right time, you can sort of lean back at the right time to get the kind of weight balance on your bike correct, or lean forward. And in doing so, you can then tackle all the obstacles. The idea being, of course, you get from the start to the finish in the fastest possible time, and he who is the quickest is the winner. And so it was to do that and repeat. There's a lot to like about this game. It's neat. The graphics are nice. They're kind of, they are what they are. But it runs pretty fast. It's got quite an annoying motorbike noise, but it runs pretty fast. I felt the controls, I struggled with the controls, but that's only because I wasn't using a joystick. I think if I had a joystick, an actual proper joystick, I don't think I would have had so much trouble with it because I kept falling off a lot. And I couldn't seem to get back on the track when I wanted to immediately, and I figured there's probably a method to do that, which I wasn't aware of. It didn't actually detract from what I was playing. So that's the premise of the game. It's a race. Who can go over the obstacle course the fastest? And he who does wins, and the graphics are okay. The music in game was a variant of the Kickstarter music, but it's one of those tunes that sort of repeats on a short interval, which means that gradually it drills its way through into your brain. But other than that, I actually quite enjoyed playing it. It was frustrating a bit because I was falling off a lot, but I enjoyed it. So what did you think?
Yeah, I'm in agreement, really. I mean, this is one of the early precursors. I mean, you've already said the word, but it's the Trial series of games. So all those motorbike games you get now, sort of thing, the weird and wonderful tracks and everything. This is essentially, one of those. This is almost pretty much the early precursor to it, along with things like Exciter Bike, I guess, on the NES and things like that. But this is, 2D flat on, simple sprite for the bike and the player. And yeah, you go every obstacle. The clever thing about this is that every obstacle has a certain speed you have to hit it at. Some are slow, you'll be so you've got to go across fences. So you imagine sort of garden gate fences that have got to be quite slow, and if you go too fast, you'll fall off them. Some are quite fast, where you've got to go across them fast, so don't slow down. And it's learning which is which. So there's a nice learning curve to this, and you get better and better as it goes on. And it's also as well that certain points, sometimes you want to jump, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you want to go off a ramp, sometimes you want to leap off it, sometimes you want to angle your bike to come down on a proper slope. There's some really nice controls and a really good learning curve to this. At first, it does feel quite punishing. It's quite hard. But then you start to get used to the different obstacles in your way. And the 8 courses that it presents, I mean, it's only 8 of what they are actually pretty varied and pretty nice. And once you get a good flow going, it's really unfortunate to come off and fly off, especially when playing 2-player, because it's split screen as well, which is always good fun. And I do remember playing a lot of this split screen back in the day. And really enjoying it when you fly off. There isn't a technique to getting back on, so you didn't do anything wrong there. The game will automatically put you back on at the earliest opportunity it can, where there's a bit of clear space.
Right, I thought it was that. I thought
and that's what it does. So it's quite clever in that way. But the problem is that while it's waiting to get you there, it's very slow. So if you're playing 2-player, the person down below is racing ahead. But then again, in racing ahead, they may make a mistake, and then you get back on and can catch them up. It's a really nice push and pull, tug and war sort of things, which can go on when you're playing 2-player. It's got a sizzler, and it's very, very well deserved. It's still good fun to this day. I had a weird glitch in one of my rounds where either something switched sort of thing, and it kept putting me back on in the middle of a jump. And I just immediately kept collapsing and ended up crashing down to the floor, and I couldn't progress. Something had obviously gone wrong in the code. Either a ball had switched or something, I don't know, and it didn't realise what it was doing. But the levels that I did play started to come back to me, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. I think it's still a great little game. It is superseded by its superior sequel, which comes along sometime later. Kickstart 2 is an all-out classic. It came with a construction kit, if I remember rightly, where you could build your own levels. If I remember rightly, it did. This didn't, sort of thing, and so it's a little bit more limited, but as almost as a proof of concept. And I do believe as well, was this? Am I right in thinking this was a Mastertronic $199 game?
Yes, it was.
So for $199. for £2, this was an incredible piece of work and value for money. That was you couldn't go wrong with it. It's a great little game that's still just as good today. It's still fun, and you put two people against each other, trying to sort of navigate the obstacles because some of them are fiendish the way they're put together. And when you nail them, it still gives you that feeling of like, yeah, got it. But when obviously you just get it slightly wrong and you come, and that noise when you fly off your bike, it's like and you go spinning. Yeah, you go spinning, and it's that noise, and you're like, oh, it's so. Ugh. But it's great. Yeah, I think this is still a great little game, and thoroughly worth your time. Yeah. Anything to add to my ebullient spiel?
I think, like you say, like you say, this was it's a very, very early version of that kind of game, but it isn't. The formula didn't really change, in all fairness. And even in those really modern, fancy 3D ones, the format hasn't really changed. In fact, if anything, they're a bit sillier. This did adhere to the logic of the TV show, so it did keep it as a race. It didn't, because that new one goes kind of crazy.
Yes,
and it's fun, but it does go a bit wild. Whereas this one, it's still recognisable as kind of a variant of the TV show, and you're on a trials bike. And
yeah.
I remember playing this with more than with two or three people. In fact, I remember playing it with you.
Yeah, I think we did,
and playing it many times. And it was always one of those go-to games if you had a few people around, kind of a party game as well. And there weren't many of those around at the time.
No, that worked and were fun.
It was either Kickstart versus Mule. Kickstart's going to win that battle every time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is a good game, and I think you're right. Your obstacles, you got little bumps, you got fences, you got double decker buses to jump over, you got ramps, jumps, hedges to fly across. Well, there's loads. There's quite a few. It's quite varied. It's good, and it's the good thing about it, sort of thing as well, which I thought was quite clever, is that although the graphics are simple, they communicate what they are really well, really easily. So you're not sort of at a disadvantage trying to figure out what the hell it is. Tires look like tires. The fences look like fences, even though they're really simple. They're just essentially, oh yeah, I know that's that. And I think that kind of affordance, that kind of like easy readability of the visual information on screen, lends itself to actually, you can get some really quick, good times on this. You could feel yourself getting more skilled at it. And that's and I think that's quite unusual. It didn't, and it always felt fair. I think that was the other thing. It was your fault if you cocked up, yours, not the game's.
Yes.
And I think that's quite an unusual thing for back then. Is this a Sean Southern game? I think it was, wasn't it?
Well, Kickstart 2 definitely was.
So I'm pretty sure this was. So Cosmic.
I feel reasonably sure that it was.
Trailblazer, Cosmic Causeway.
Yeah. So the guy again, another talented programmer, very talented.
Very much so. Yeah, this is good. So yeah, Kickstart, we like. Tap to the past. Yep. Thumbs up. Yeah.
Yes, it gets a double thumbs up.
It does. Yes. Not the next one though. No, not the next one. The next one, so we're going to look at, is another game. We're sticking with the letter K, and that's all it's got in common. Because the next one is Knockout. Is this Alligator? Did Alligator make this? I don't know.
Yes,
it is. So Knockout. Okay, it's a boxing game. Okay, in the style of the game that will come out later and be much, much better, which is Barry McGuigan's Boxing. But this is Knockout. So this is a side-on boxing game where you are trying to box, and it's awful. I don't know where to go with this one because it's boxing, so it's not your Frank Bruno, it's not your Mike Tyson's Punch-Out viewpoint. It's side-on, so there's your classic sort of beat-em-up viewpoint. Two characters in a ring, they go up to each other, and I only played against the computer and found it almost impossible. Even though I put the computer down to the weakest strength, crappiest everything, they just knock me out constantly. But that wasn't so bad. I mean, okay, I got knocked out. I'll retry. The problem is what happens when you get knocked out. And the amount of time that scrolling message goes across the top. It's like I suddenly thought I was watching a demo, because this felt like somebody had come from the world of demo and had a really nice scrolling letters routine that they were damn sure they were going to get in this game. And instead of, when you lose, all you want is you lost, you got knocked out in this round, There you go. No. This scrolling message with massive letters, which only shows about 5 letters at a time, goes across for what must be a good minute or so. And just, I couldn't. And then I tried to box again, got immediately knocked out, had to wait, turned off. This garbage.
Yeah, you're not going to wait to get woken up, are you, in this game?
No.
You know, you're not going to want to come back for any of the rounds. You know, if you get knocked down by the invincible bad guy in this game, it's actually sweet relief because you think, right now I can switch it off. It was crap. Utter crap. Really badly drawn sprites. It looked to me like it was unfinished, I have to say. A bit like an unfinished code experiment in places. I mean, I've programmed stuff on the Commodore 64 over many years. So there's little things that give away things that are in there. It looked like they'd stuck some kind of raster timer for the graphics into the border colours. So it looked to me like it was unfinished. So that aside, and the horrific way that you selected the player variants, for want of a better description, which seemed really stupidly arbitrary as well. You could just make the enemy as difficult as you want. And also, and I don't know if it was just me, but I expected to start on the left. I don't know why. I thought I was the left. I thought I would be the left player. I don't know why that is. I just assumed I wouldn't be punching right to left. I'd be going left to right. I don't know why that was the case, but anyway, that's the way it was.
Yeah, I suppose most single-player games you are on the left. Yeah, boxing games.
An odd choice. No. So I'm guessing that I don't know why that was the case. But like you say, it felt like there was no response to what I was doing. In fact, it didn't seem to match what I was trying to achieve. And it was just horrible. And then, like you say, that really obnoxious, small but endless scroll kind of that just sealed the crappy deal. The only thing that it had that was vaguely related to boxing was that it had some perfunctory bell sounds that went ding, ding, ding as you started, and then that just made me think this game is just bad. And then off it went because I thought, boxing games. We had the discussion when we talked about the tennis games and some other sports games. When you've got sports game logic and you've got to stick to that, fine. But there's ways you can make it more fun. And this didn't make an attempt to do any of that. And the sprites were just downright weird looking. And when you got knocked out, I mean, part of me really wanted to watch a boxing match that ended like that, where the boxer just laid flat on his back with his fists in the air. I want to see that happen, because it was just rubbish. And it's a great shame because I imagine that it's a bit of a play, I think, on Super Knockout, which I think is the arcade that was around at the time, or certainly there was games like that in the arcade. Not boxing like this, but boxing had, I think, become a game at this point, or at least in the arcade anyway. So I'm wondering whether there's a bit of a play on that, but it might not have been timing-wise. Either way, it was something that I've managed to avoid all these years, and I still will.
That's true. I mean, there are other boxing games coming down the line that are either much more controversial or much better.
Both.
And we'll talk about them.
Definitely
but
both.
As an introduction to the art of pugilism, this is a bad one. Bad.
Yes.
Bad.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, yeah, we can't say anything more about this other than it's it's not a knockout. All right, let's move on from that garbage to this. I don't know. I'm interested to see what you thought about this one. Our next game and our last game in this section is Chicken Chase from Firebird, I believe.
Yes.
What did you make of it?
Well, for funsies, I didn't actually, because we actually got the wrong one in the original download. So I never actually played the original one, the one that was actually the game in Zap. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to see if that way we'd have two chicken chases.
Oh no!
One which was utterly crap monstrosity with really bad graphics that was unplayable and you could hide really rubbish and was awful. And your version was
right. Okay. The version that's in Zap has that one that I gave you was called Chicken Chase. It did call that. The reason why sort of thing is in my list of files. The Chicken Chase that we had spells chicken with two I's, so CHICKIN. How many was I supposed to know? It's just ridiculous. Finger chicken looking good. I don't know. Anyway, Chicken Chase, the one in Zap. So it's bright, colourful graphics. Essentially, it's a single screen peck 'em up.
Is that a genre? It is
now. And my first comment in there is basically what it is so you play a hen, and as far as I can make out, you don't actually chase any chickens. What happens is that the cockerel. No, sorry, it's not you play the hen. Sorry, you play the cockerel. So I think the hen comes out and lays an egg on these shells at the back, and you have to protect that egg from random hedgehogs and rats who wander into the coop and try and get the egg. And to stop them doing that, you have to peck them. So it's a peck 'em up. So that's what it is. And then if you survive it long enough, I managed to do it. And this is the bit I couldn't quite grasp, sort of thing, because what happens is the first time I did it, I was getting menaced by a hedgehog. So I managed to peck this hedgehog off screen a few times, and then the egg hatched, and that was fine. And then something happened. And then the hen came out and hit me over the head with a rolling pin. Then went and laid another egg, and then unfortunately the rat got it in this occasion because I was too busy trying to peck a worm that had appeared. And then she came out and hit with a rolling pin again. At that point, I turned it off because I was fed up of it. It wasn't very good. My first comment in here is that. I bet somewhere in the marketing the term henpecked was said with much hilarity because that's what it feels like. And I put the game is badly named, and in fact henpecked would have been a better title because at least then it fits the game because you don't chase any chickens.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they don't have henpecked in there, I would worry that some of the marketing material will be players control a cock. Who is making sure that their wife delivers an egg? Yeah,
because I know a chicken chase is. I believe I don't rear chicken, so I might get this wrong, something. But it's a chicken chase like the run. What they have is that called a chase, where they go out and they run around and sort of thing. Is that called a chase? I'm not sure. I don't know. For some reason that rings a bell in my head. You spend the entire time in the coop, so you're not in the chase. Chicken coop would have been better. This is bad. So someone should have had a word. Yes. But chunky sprites, awful sounds, bad game. You never chase a chicken.
Yeah.
That's my comments.
No.
So it's not great. And, I think Zapped were a bit lenient on it, sort of thing. Much more lenient than I would have been because... I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't look great. I mean, I didn't play it. It didn't look great, and I read the review in Zapped, didn't think much to what they said. Chuckled when I read that it was called Cock-In in French, in the game version in French. I imagine a lot of people bought that and were probably disappointed that it had chickens in it. But that said, has there ever been a good game with a chicken in it?
Well, I was trying to think that. Do we like Chucky? I didn't like Chucky Egg. But then again, I suppose it's an egg, isn't it? Not a chicken.
That's what I'm saying. No, is there a chicken-based game?
I don't.
We'll maybe come across it.
Maybe I don't know. I'm trying to think.
I don't remember any. I don't remember chickens being that popular in games.
No, I can't think of anyone unless there's the film Chicken Run. Was there a game ever built on that one? Certainly not for the C64, but
maybe it could have been.
I don't remember any good games where you control a chicken.
I think they would have called it something like Cock-a-Doodle or. Cock-a-doodle don't.
Yeah, I mean, even in Zelda, where there are chickens, sort of thing, they call them cuckoos or cuckoos. So they don't even call them chickens in that. They just know that putting chickens in a game is a sign of badness. This is a bad game. It's not great.
No. Well, I think I would go by what I think. When I read the review, it felt one of those evangelical moments for Zapped again. They do that periodically, where sometimes you see the game and you think, how have you played the same one?
It wasn't for me. I couldn't no. I think there's not much more to say about it. It's a single screen. You peck stuff. Animals come along, try to steal eggs. You get hit with rolling pin. And that's it, really. There you go. That's Chicken Chase. And one I would not recommend you go and look at. Don't do it. It's not worth it. There we go. So what we got next? Coming up next, I'm going to take a quick break, which will be interspersed by a ha noise. Let's see you do that. Where we're going to look at what was going on in UK music in July. 1985. Okay, right. So welcome back. Welcome back. This is 1985 music in July 1985. Our number one singles, we had 3 singles that were at number one in this particular time. Running in from last month, we had Sister Sledge with Frankie, who stayed at number one for 4 weeks.
Goodness gracious me.
I know, I never liked that song.
Nope.
Just for 1 week after that, we had the Arrhythmics with There Must Be an Angel.
It's not the Arrhythmics' finest moment, that.
No, but it's still a good song, and it's still better than Frankie.
A lot better than Frankie, and it's got a win for the most elongated use of the word room in any song ever.
Yeah, that's Annie Lennox, yeah. She will elongate any word you ask her to, on request.
Just don't. So when she goes into a hotel, it must take ages.
Annie, can you say door really longly? Door! Thanks, Annie. And then after that was Madonna started her 4-week run at number one with Into the Groove.
Oh, such a great song.
It is a great song, Into the Groove.
I love that song.
Was that from Desperately Seeking Susan? I believe it was.
It certainly is.
Yeah, that was a good song, and that would stay there for 4 weeks. You'd actually have 2 singles in the top 40, because I think Crazy for You came back in, or maybe it was Crazy.
It was when it was Jingo Jelly Bean that did the...
Oh, that remix album.
Yeah, and I think that's where some of these became really popular. So
yeah, very much so.
Proper old school. I say old school now, of course, but just proper sort of great for clubs and stuff like that at the time. Really popular. Really. That's the reason why it was number one for so long.
Indeed. Albums. Most of the month, the number one album was Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen, obviously. That was number one for a number of weeks, sort of thing, but it was its 60th week. Up to its 60, it dropped after its 60th week in the charts. Quite incredible.
Goodness me, it is, because I don't like Bruce Springsteen.
But but that album is there's a lot to that album, and I think
landmark album.
I think mid '80s, because it's not about how great the USA is, despite them using that type song in Trump rallies and everything like that. That song is not a hymn to the greatness of America. It's really not.
No, it is not.
But it was knocked off by another big old album from that period, which was Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms.
Oh, good album, Brothers in Arms.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. I don't like Dire Straits. I never liked them. I don't mind Thingy, I don't mind. It's all right.
Money for Nothing.
Yeah, that's the one. Although, as I call it, which is the better title.
I still got it though. So to be fair, I still got it. I don't know how, but I got it from that. So
there you go. It's the much better song, much better title.
I'm not what you call a Dire Straits fan, but I do
Admit it. You are.
The Brothers in Arms is a great album. I don't like a lot of their other stuff at all.
No.
But to be fair, Mark Knopfler's soundtrack for The Princess Bride is very good. So.
Yes, it is. Yes, I mean, I'm not a Dire Straits. It's just a bit too MOR for me. It's just a bit too dull.
It's very safe.
But I do like I said, I do like that. What new releases did we have? So that's our albums. There's our number ones. Big stuff. Madonna, Bruce Springsteen, Dire Straits, big stuff in there. New singles out. We had We Don't Need Another Hero. Tina Turner. In at number 37.
Big hair classic. Her hair is huge in that. Inexplicably huge.
Which means that around this time, we're obviously going to get Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
It's not the best Mad Max.
It's not. It's probably the weakest.
Yes. Which says a lot, really, because the first one was made on like £8. So
yeah, in George Miller's backyard.
Yeah, it is. Double-sided sticky tape for special effects. But it's just... There's parts of the third one that are quite really intriguing.
The last third, when they get away, when it turns into Mad Max.
Yeah.
When it gets back to being Mad Max, and now, Sky Captain. Oh.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Into the Groove, that was actually released, and then was straight in at number 4, straight up to number 1. There you go.
Yeah.
The Cure released In Between Days. That came out and it was straight at number 35. I'm only looking at songs that came into unless there's something I want to mention, in the top 40. In Between Days, The Cure, number 35. Good Cure song. I like that Cure song. poppy.
They all sound the same.
Poppy jangly. They don't.
I'm going to be controversial.
Wash your mouth out.
I'm going to be controversial and say I really don't like The Cure. I don't like anything they've ever done.
Don't liking them is fine sort of thing. Don't say they all sound the same.
They do. It just sound like, it all sounds like The Cure. It sounds like The Cure to me. Moaning whinge-a-lots.
And one that I think we'll probably both agree on here. I Got You, Babe. UB40 and Chrissy Hind.
Do you know?
Number 22. I hate them. I hate them. I don't care that you were on the dole and you made big sort of thing. I don't care. You made rubbish white reggae that was garbage.
Yeah, it is white reggae is a very good description.
It's just...
And Chrissy Hines sings mostly in vowel sounds. So.
Yeah, she does. I don't. Yeah, I was never a big fan of Pretenders.
Well, if you don't believe me, just listen to Take a moment outside of listening to "I Got You, Babe" and listen to their Christmas song, the Pretenders' Christmas song. Was it 2,000 Miles or whatever? She just inexplicably hums in vowels. No, rubbish. And I never liked UB40 in any capacity.
No, they were overrated tribe. What was interesting, though, and I'd wanted to mention this because of the C64 connection, was the re-release of Living on Video by Trans-X, which I do believe is the Elite loading tune. Was it?
It is. Yes, it was the loading tune for Frank Bruno's boxing.
Yeah, and quite a few, I think it was quite a few Elite games, actually. And it was actually quite a decent version on that loading screen.
It was, very good, yeah.
And Living on Video came back out. That was re-released and get back into the charts. Good song, actually. No. Although when he starts singing, was when I kind of go, oh.
Yeah, it's in that cusp. There's a few, because it's the sort of late 70s, early 80s was that disco to dance kind of cusp, synthy cusp. So there's a bit of, cheaper synthesizers started to appear because synthesizers were very expensive, and then newer, more cheaper ones came along. So there's some of the stuff started to get released in more frequency with synthesizers on it, and tracks like Trans-X and things like that. And there's a few others around that time that did the same thing. Space were around at that time, Magic Fly and stuff like that, But I remember thinking when I first heard it on the C64, and that might very well be the first place I ever heard Trans-X Living on Video.
Yeah, I think it was me as well,
I remember thinking then it was really good.
Yeah.
And so when I actually heard the official one, when a friend of ours got a 12-inch of it, and I was going to be very careful how I did that then because there was a slight break, but he got a 12-inch version of that record. And I remember thinking then it was very good. So
it is good, yeah. I mean, to me, it's and I don't really want this to sound damning, but it's B-level Kraftwerk. Yes, because A-level Kraftwerk is amazing, but even B-level Kraftwerk is good sort of thing. And this sounds like, because of it's, are they German? They sound German when they start singing, and that down. It sounds Kraftwerk, very Kraftwerky, hugely sort of influenced by them, I think, and it's just great. And obviously, I wanted to mention it because it was one of the classic loaders, tape loaders from that time, and it was the Elite
Trans-X, by the way, French Canadian.
French Canadian, okay, fair enough. Not German. It sounded German when he was singing them.
And the name of Trans-X comes from Trans Europe Express as a homage to Kraftwerk.
Oh, there you go. See, I got some kind of link. Right, so there you go. Albums. So just wrap up music bit. New release of albums. I've got 3 here that came out. This was a day in history, a hairy day in history. A very, very hairy day.
That is very hairy.
Because on one day in the UK, we had Fly on the Wall by AC/DC, Theatre of Pain by Motley Crue, and Invasion of Your Privacy by Rat. I'm not sure that there was enough hairspray to handle this.
Hair metal was definitely coming big and fast there, wasn't it?
Yeah, all these I thought hair metal nightmare. Christ.
Which singer is that in AC/DC at that time?
I don't. My knowledge of AC/DC is Back in Black. I'm not a big AC/DC fan, so it could be.
Same. I just wondered if it was the one that goes, eh! Or is it the one that goes, eh!
It's one of them. I think it's the one that goes, ah! That one.
Motley Crue, of course. Well, you either like Motley Crue or you don't.
And I didn't. I never did. I did like a couple of tracks on Theatre of Pain that were okay, sort of thing. Rap were just sub Motley Crue, which is like, God, if Trans-X are B-level Kraftwerk, Z-level Motley Crue.
Yes,
but they
yes,
were,
they were.
but they were better than Dangerous Toys.
Yeah. It's a safe bet, really, that pretty much most hair metal was better than that. And this is quite early on as well, so these are sort of the...
Yeah.
I hesitate to use the term pioneers of hair metal, but I know it's AC/DC hair metal. Do they come under that banner?
I think...
Motley Crue, definitely.
I would imagine something, like I said, I don't know. Some people who like AC/DC around this time, I go, no, this isn't hair metal, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just looking, look, this mid-1980s, Bon Jovi are around, Def Leppard are around, Motley Crue are around. I'm going to guess that AC/DC were probably... White Snake are around. This is probably, if they did some hair metal stuff, this is probably, it might not be, it might be the heaviest thing they ever did, and some AC/DC fan is probably going to come and kill me. I don't know. I'm just thinking that what I do know is that there was a lot of hair on that record. Yeah, so that's music. There we go. There was some good albums released, some good singles released. Well, albums came out, some interesting albums came out that were lots of hair. And that's your music roundup for July 1985. Okay, and welcome back. So we just had the music. Now we've got a third part of our games in this episode. And we're going to look at the first one, which got a sizzler. And that game is Strangeloop. I think we mentioned this in our Crapverts last week. Or in last episode, so let's have a think. What's Strangeloop? What is it, Graham? You tell me. It's kind of a platforming game. I've said it's Jetpack meets Jet Set Willy. That's exactly what I've written. How bizarre! I put Jet Set Willy meets Jetpack.
Yeah, it is that. So it's got odd controls. The idea of the game is you've got to, navigate around the explorable maze of challenging monsters and hazards, finding stuff to connect with other things that does stuff. There's about 250 rooms, all said and done. It's an arcade adventure, essentially. It's got a couple of nice little features. So you've got pockets in there, so you can collect stuff and pop it in your pockets, and then you can utilise that stuff at given intervals and do stuff like that. And it was quite fast. The graphics were quite good. It was quite a fast-paced game, and it's medium res again, but quite nicely done. It felt that some of the levels felt a bit like when you went in the underground sections of Cauldron. So there was a little bit of that. You could sort of travel up and down kind of pipes, so there's hints of Roland Rat in there, weirdly, as well, for some reason. But you could sort of travel underground, travel under the thing, go to the different rooms, avoid the hazards, and collect the bits and bobs. And it's one of those, it's an arcade adventure, that's what you do in it, right? I liked it, and I don't normally like these kind of games, but this one had quite a nice atmosphere. It felt kind of sort of neo-tech noir kind of, there was a kind of a edge to it, the kind of bas relief graphics, and just quite a nice sort of look and feel to it. It sort of had a bit of atmosphere. It didn't sort of give lots of things away when you first start, so you had to explore and figure stuff out. It greatly improved when you got the hover bike, which is something that you collect a bit later down the line, so you're not sort of bouncing around on a jetpack. You can actually get a hover bike, and when you get that, it becomes instantly more playable and controllable. Why they didn't give you that from the start, I don't know. But you've got to like games where you're wandering around collecting stuff and having to do stuff. And I do generally. This is, I do if they're good. This was all right. But I don't know. It's probably deserving of its sizzler, but these kind of games, they've got to be really good at this for me to really enjoy them. But that's me. What did you think? I'm
going to say that this wasn't for me. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I didn't get to the bike. My comments are a flick screen float-a-thon. I felt it had very unresponsive controls, and I found myself getting quite annoyed with them because I wasn't quite sure what was going on. I didn't know if I was floating and it was jetpacking or hovering or whatever. So Jet Set Willy meets Jetpack, and not as good as either. And as you know, I'm not a great fan of either of those games. That's damning. You collect stuff, you shoot Manic Miner style enemies at times, and I couldn't. It's another one of them. It's another one of them. Like we said, like Roland Ratrace, like Turn and Og, like Everyone's a Wally. There's just replete with these kind of, these flick screen arcade adventure enemies just randomly scrambling around the screen, which you've got to try and avoid with the controls thingy, and I think you're right. If I'd known there was a bike, I might have persevered a bit. I didn't. Maybe I should have done. But I think that they should have given you something that actually controlled well. If they've got something that controls well, from them, give you it. Don't let you fight against it. It's the elite syndrome. Give you a docking computer. Give you that sort of thing. The only game that really gets this right, in my opinion, is Whizball.
Absolutely.
Where Whizball, the controls are hard at the beginning, sort of thing, but you soon you power up very quickly. You power up, so you're not stuck in that thing. I felt stuck in this kind of crap control hell that I didn't really know what was going on. I kept getting crushed. I got stuck in a section where I kept getting crushed by something. Just kept kind of crushed. I just got frustrated and annoyed and turned it off. I'm sure there is, there's plenty more to it. I'm glad that you got to it, because it does actually sound like maybe there is something in there. And I think you're right that visually it's okay. There is a nice bit of style to it and some nice moments and some nice best release graphics, but I just couldn't get beyond the controls. My interface with the game, it just wasn't there, and that frustrated me.
Yeah, so, it's like you say. These games can be impenetrable if they make it too difficult to get into them quickly. It's a failing of a lot of these games. We'll see another one later that doesn't actually do that. It's actually a bit better than that. But I actually came across the jet hoverbike thing purely by chance, so it's not like I planned to do that. I just happened to go away. I didn't really know what I was doing because I was flying around like a maniac and just happened to go into this room and by some miracle managed to get this thing. So when I'd got that, it felt a lot more playable. But that said, it was more of the same. Don't get me wrong. You're still going around rooms. It just meant that I wasn't bouncing around the rooms like a maniac. And that's a bug in... It's not a bug. It's a design thing. But that's a feature of some Commodore 64 games that drives me mad. Where the collision to background makes you sort of bounce around. Remember Airwolf, when we played Airwolf in the previous episodes of the podcast? Airwolf did it. And later, as we'll discover,
flashbacks.
And there's games like the Sacred Armor of Antiriad that also do it. When you've got to try and navigate your spaceship, space person, craft, whatever, through a small space, and if you even breathe near the pixels that are at the top or the bottom, you're going to bounce around. Those kind of games can very quickly become tiresome, as you've discovered, and I only persevered once I'd got that extra thing. So it's okay, but you know what? If someone gave me a copy of Strangeloop and put it next to me playing something like Knockout, I'm going to opt for Strangeloop. So
yeah,
it was a Virgin game as well.
It was, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I probably, I would do. I mean, if you put it next to, put most things next to,
that's not
probably going to play it.
That isn't a fair comparison. You're right. Yeah.
But it's like I said. I think it's just another. At this point in time, we seem to be inundated with flick screen adventure games.
Yes.
They'd obviously mastered this. Creating tons and tons of screens in the C64 memory,
tile based,
and being able to store them and bring them up and make these huge maps. And there was a big thing, sort of thing, because obviously the magazines could then print the maps of them, and you'd have all this, that kind of stuff. And so it was a big thing around them, and I'm not knocking them for it. But my problem with this, I'm quite happy to play a flick screen adventure game. I like things like Robin of the Wood, Nodes of Yesod. And things like that, because the controls are good. This is let down for me by the bad controls.
Yeah,
and that's what put me off. It's not the fact that I don't like these kind of things. The Magic Knight games, I quite enjoy some of them, but this is just let down by those unresponsive. And I found myself, like you said, bouncing off stuff.
Yeah, which is frustrating.
Which is very frustrating. I mean, I loved Antiriad. Antiriad's another one sort of thing, but I didn't think that was quite as bad, because that gives you, again, quite relatively quickly some ways of overcoming those things. This didn't seem to do that. And maybe, it did for you, but not for me.
You'll know the pain. So, when you play those games and you bounce around, there's certain games do it, some do it better than others, but if the game is tolerable in spite of that, that's fine. But if it becomes something that actually stops you being able to progress or enjoy it, it very quickly becomes the thing that aims your hand towards the off switch, I have to say.
Yeah, we will look at another one later on, sort of thing, which will be interesting to see, to get our opinions on that sort of thing. I don't know what you thought of it, but yeah, it's a Strangeloop, not for me. I can see its appeal, but I think if you give me something that I could control, I probably would have got on with this much better. Okay, so let's move on from Strangeloop into Amazon Warrior. I don't know if this was part of the game or something that would have been drawn for it by some artist, but my first comment is, what the hell is that title screen?
It's the same. In fact, I even got a screen grab of it. It was that awful.
Oh my God, that's horrific. Now, Amazon Warrior, if you've listened, if we've actually put it out sort of thing, we've spoken about Forbidden Forest on a previous episode, in our episode 0, where we look at games from prior to Zap. And I think what comes out of that episode sort of thing is just how much the pair of us really, really liked Forbidden Forest. And it still stands up today. We had a great time with it, and it's a really good game. And this game really, really annoyed me. It made me quite angry sort of thing, because it's a really bad version of Forbidden Forest. And I think this is, it just misses everything that made Forbidden Forest great. There's a great bit at the start of the review in Zap, which basically says the programmer took one, the people wanted to say, well, we want to make something like Forbidden Forest, and the programmer took one look at it and said, yeah, I can do that. Don't worry. And unfortunately, he couldn't. He could get the scrolling right in the back, and that was about it, sort of thing. But the game is why are you so small? So for no one that don't know, Forbidden Forest is a classic sort of almost survival horror-ish type thing, where you are an archer wandering through some side-scrolling woods where you get attacked by various massive creatures that you have to shoot with your bow. And it's got great atmosphere, great music, great visuals for the time. And is one of the few games that has a really great atmosphere. Amazon Warrior tries to do that by swapping the titular, the archer out for an Amazon Warrior with a spear, and just gets it all wrong. This is a game that's 35 years old. I shouldn't be feeling angry about it, but this just felt like a real cash-in and a real insult to Forbidden Forest. And made me, because I really do like Forbidden Forest, and this game I was like, I don't think I've reached for an off switch quite so, pushed that reset button quite so angrily yet. This was, I didn't like this, if you didn't get that picture.
No, I didn't get that from that. No.
From that diatribe.
I 100% agree. My review was quite short because I was annoyed. This is just a rip-off game. There's no way around that. It's a Forbidden Forest rip-off. It completely rips it off in every way, but not in a good way. In all the, and it just makes something that was actually quite good and attempts, and it's just poor. The idea that you're an Amazonian with a blowpipe shooting at spiders was just stupid. Yeah. It's just stupid. The way, obviously in the original Forbidden Forest, you had to notch your arrows and then fire them, and there was that, you had to sort of think about it. This sort of tries that by having to load the dart in the blowpipe. It's just rubbish. Yeah. It's just a rip-off. If I want to play this properly, I'll go and play Forbidden Forest. Why on earth would anyone want to play this Amazonian, crap version? I don't get it.
Well, the thing is, if you think about it, Forbidden Forest is fantastical. There are dragons and giant and skeletons and giant creatures and all these kind of crazy stuff. And it's forbidden. It's a forest that's forbidden. You're going in there and it's creepy and it's unusual and you don't know what kind is going on. This is just a forest with creatures. This is just the Amazonian jungle. Yeah. This isn't Forbidden Forest. This is just normal jungle.
Yeah, and horribly out of scale. So you're too small. The spiders were too big. Your blow darts were too small. It was just everything was wrong. But it's just the way it blatantly ripped off Forbidden Forest. Even its graphic style is a rip-off, because Forbidden Forest has a kind of a Forbidden Forest look. Yeah. And it just rips it off, and it annoyed me. The same reason it annoyed you. I'm thinking, if you can't go to the effort of making your own game, don't just rip off somebody else, try and pass it off as theirs, and some attempt, because that's just, it's cheap. And you cheapen the name of the original programmer's efforts when you do things like that. So for me, it was switched off, and I thought, if I'd have been the chap that made Forbidden Forest, I forget his name now, but if I'd have been that chap, I think I would have been reaching for the lawyer's telephone number.
Yeah, might have been, Paul Norman, I think it was.
Paul Norman, I would imagine, the publisher, somebody must have picked up the phone and gone, hang on a minute, come on.
Yeah, it is bad sort of thing. And it's not only that sort of thing, they've even gone to try and do that, because the Forbidden Forest title screen is really nice and atmospheric, the Cosmo logo, the lightning, and they've tried to do that here again as well. And that's how blatant a rip-off this is.
Yeah.
It really did annoy me, because I was completely unaware of this game. We'll discuss the advert in a bit. But I was completely unaware of this game, and I was blissfully unaware, and becoming aware of it, it did nothing for my mood.
No, it didn't fare well in Zapped particularly either. I think they saw through the ploy, which was just make a game like that one, and people who like that will probably like it. But yeah.
I think the good thing is that Norman comes along later, does Beyond Forbidden Forest, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, which is way better.
And we will look at that at some point, because that does come through at some point, and is the proper worthy sequel to Forbidden Forest by the guy who knew what he was doing. But this is just avoid it. I mean, you're not going to go buy it obviously because you're not out or something, but don't waste your time with it. It's rubbish.
No.
Yeah, no. Okay, so on that note, let's move on. Because when you think things can't get any worse, and it's true, you've just heard us be very, very critical and angry with Amazon Warrior. Our final game for this section is, and this part sort of thing, is Circus Circus. Zapped gave this a tacky, which I don't even think comes close. But do you want to have at it?
I think they were being generous. So this is it's a really crap, blocky version of Manic Miner again. The main graphics and sprites, to me, look like they were drawn by a 5-year-old at best. Awful. Really terrible music, a dirge of beepy, monotonous sounds that drills into your skull. The gameplay was rubbish, and it was inconceivable that with games around of other quality at this time, like Dropzone and other things like that this could be released. And I've put in my notes here, this is proof that there was no QA process at Firebird, or potentially that any of those people involved were deaf and blind.
My notes are not much better. My notes just go, Jesus Christ, away from me, Satan.
I just put OMG as my first comment. This is utter crap.
Bad everything, so no point in listing anything. No. I do go list. Controls, visuals, music, everything is bad. I put even for $2.99, I would have cried myself to sleep that night.
Yeah, I mean, kids spent their pocket money at the time, comparatively. That was probably... I didn't get that amount of pocket money even then. So this was something you'd either saved your money up for, or you would have, these were often the $1.99, $2.99 were compromise games. Because, you didn't have the money for a $7.99, $8.99, $9.99 title. So you might think, but if you took a punt on this, you're going to be crying yourself to sleep for weeks.
We'll put it the comparison in sort of things that Kickstart is a quid cheaper.
Yeah, and much, much better. This is it looked to me, again, unfinished.
It's amateurish. It's really bad.
Not even, a worse kind of amateurish. Unfinished, amateurish, absolute guff. And Zapped pulled no punches with it either. No, they basically said this is just awful, and they were absolutely right. There is no redeeming features of this game, any at all. And it's, if I had a time machine, I would go back and erase it. I would. No, never mind all that Terminator business. I'd go back and make sure that thing never happened.
That's okay. Maybe a waste of all that technology, but I'm not going to disagree with you.
Do you know that would be one of the submissions of the whole thing? Just I know. So I would deliberately do that, but the thing is, it can't have worked because we wouldn't be talking about it right now. So
no, it'd be weird sort of thing. You come back and we're talking about some other game, and you'd be like, "I wiped Circus Circus from the multiverse. We've done it. It's gone, and it deserves to be wiped. It's a terrible, terrible thing."
Was it supposed to be set in a circus? Because I didn't get that. Was it a big top or something?
This is the thing. I couldn't tell from the visuals.
No.
This is an era with sprites in that were T-posing.
Yeah.
This is a game that had T-pose sprites. So I'm like, but you can draw sprites in any way you want.
You can animate them so easily.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't tell whether I could jump on platforms. I moved from left to. I don't know. It was just god awful.
Yeah.
One of the worst things we've played so far.
Yes, I think I would agree.
And it's it's always good to end on a high note for a section. But there you go. That's Circus Circus. So Strangeloop, Amazon Warriors, Circus Circus. I didn't have a lot of fun this part. I have to say, but there you go. So let's round up. What games have we looked at today? In this section, we've looked at Dropzone, Roland Ratrace, Cyphoid 9, Kickstart, Knockout, Chicken Chase, Strangeloop, Amazon Warrior, and Circus Circus. So there you go. Now we're just going to have a quick outro. We're going to look at a couple of crapverts. This is our section where we dissect some of the adverts that were deemed fit to be in magazines and stuff at the time, of various quality. Now we will be reviewing this game in the next part, sort of thing. Well, we'll be looking at it, sort of thing. So the first one is the advert for Ghetto Blaster. What do you make of this?
I put that this is potentially racially challenging.
I'm glad you put that. Anyone, just me.
I think that we've spoken about this. There's this notion there are adverts and there are games that are of their time, and they're of their politics. That politics that was around at the time, and it's quite interesting that the politics around.
This is the era of Jim Davidson.
Yeah. So, but even then, the kind of politics around the cultural acceptance of I don't know how to describe it actually, but the casual racism. Yeah,
that's what you're talking about.
Well, it's casual racism, but it's also this idea
ingrained societal racism.
Societal racism. There's a whole us against the police kind of thing. The police are very much seen as a force to be reckoned with and dealt with, and crime is it's just and associating black people with crime. And the potential to do crime, which is completely unacceptable. It's just the 80s were a very strange time, and it's reflected in TV and it's sort of it's legacy 70s stuff. I think that thinking. Thankfully, we've moved on. Well, you'd like to think we've moved on massively, but we've moved on certainly from having representations like that advert where you've got really Djangoistic stereotypes thrown in there with stereotypical language and I'm not sure I get the advert. This looks like, and this is again, it looks like an advert for a game that was designed by people that had cultural differences explained to them, but never actually lived with them.
I like the one thing I do like in this advert sort of thing is the scar bloke on the right.
Yeah, and I suppose it's a subculture. It's a game about subcultures, but it's actually just utilising stereotypes to really reinforce them. And we reviewed the game later, and it suffers from all sorts of horrible problems because of that. But this advert is kind of trying to appeal to that graffiti ghetto blaster generation of Rastafarians and black guys with huge stereos on their shoulders and a shifty looking policeman on the side there.
That cop in the corner is amazing.
And it's it's just it's. I think these adverts are a challenge now. You would never imagine someone producing anything like this anymore.
No.
So it's of its time, and unfortunately, the game is not great either, as we'll discover. But
no, it's not.
It's not great. I suppose it's cartoons, isn't it? So it's only cartoon imagery, I suppose. But
it's okay. So let's move on quickly, sort of thing, and just wrap this up, sort of thing. So the other one I would look at is Doughboy. Never has war been depicted so happily.
Yeah, they do look kind of very chirpy, don't they? Considering they're knee deep in the trenches, covered in, he's merrily holding aloft there about 900 ton of TNT, which would blow a crater the size of a city where he stood right now.
Well, is he trying to shield himself? There's a guy. They're in some. This is essentially no man's land by the looks of it. In World War One, probably. There's a guy trying to. A massive bundle of dynamite. There's another guy next to him with holding up like a grey package of some sort. I can only assume he might be trying to protect himself if he doesn't throw that dynamite. There's another couple of people in the who I'm worried about in the foxhole in front of them who are probably going to get that dynamite on their head.
Yeah.
And it's the mixture of graphical styles. You got this cartoony smoke. There's this tank in the top left. There's just, I don't know. It's like, make war fun. make the trenches of 1915 into some kind of jolly hoot.
Well, yeah, because even the opening paragraph there says it's time to hit the trenches for a fun-filled contest of bravery and tactics. I don't think anyone's ever described anything to do with World War I or any war for that matter as a fun-filled contest of bravery. Something tells me that it's, and I suspect it's probably not very accurate. And of course, it's got that whole flag-waving mentality as well. It's us versus the Germans, very Dad's Army kind of idea, and
And they deemed to pair it as well with Quasimodo as well, which is funny.
That just is outright bizarre.
We've looked at Quasimodo and Advert in previous ones, but pairing them two is
it just seems weird. You got a fun-filled World War I trenches simulator and a Quasimodo hanging from a bell. Really weird combination. Really weird. And what a strange name for the game, Doughboy. But there you go.
I think that does mean something. That does escape me. I do know. Yeah, it does. It does actually mean something, Doughboy, in a war sense, but I don't know what. And I think on that note, I think we're gonna say sayonara for this part. Is that right? I think we'll finish there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So we've reviewed a 9 game sort of thing. We'll be back in the next episode with part 2 of issue 3 of Zap. For July 95, we'll be looking at some more games. We're going to be looking at games such as Entombed, which got a gold medal. We'll be looking at Gribbly's Day Out, which was a sizzler. We'll be looking at Boulder Dash 2, again a sizzler sort of thing. We'll also be looking at and wondering and probably having a little bit of discussion on Hunchback at the Olympics and why there were so many Hunchback games around at this time.
What is it with Hunchbacks?
I don't know. We'll maybe have a discussion about that next time. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Zap to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, sights, sounds and news from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at the time. We will be back next week with another podcast, so do please join us. Until then, please head over to zaptothepast.com to sign up to our email list, as well as check out all the links and resources in the show notes. You will also find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram under Zap to the Past. The Zap to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zap to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe and see you next time.